I don't know how to start.
In the
Well,
beginning.
in the beginning, God was a woman. Well, I was a graduate student at Yale in the late 1960s, and I was treated like I didn't belong there because I'm very tall and I was kind of pretty. They thought I was the goddess, but they didn't know what the goddess meant. They didn't think I would. They used to take bets about where I would sit in the dining room and who I would sit with. I didn't know that, of course. But they also said that a woman will never finish her PhD, and even if she does, they wouldn't hire her because men have a family they have to support. And so in my life, I was feeling very crazy because I thought I was very intelligent. I got into Yale, and I was being treated like I was only a body. And actually, before that, I hadn't been a body. I hardly had ever dated in my life. So all of a sudden, I was a body. I was beautiful, and I had no brain. Whereas before, I had a brain, and nobody thought I was beautiful. And I thought you could have a body and a soul, but I guess that wasn't the way they thought at Yale. So I started realizing that actually the most famous theologians of the 20th century and the past were saying that women didn't have the same rational capacity as men. St. Thomas Aquinas said that following Aristotle. And in the 20th century, Karl Barth, who was almost like God at Yale in those days, said that man was created by God to be A, and woman was created to be B. In relation to God, man was B, but in relation to man, woman was B. And that meant that you had to be, man took the initiative, God took the initiative, and women were supposed to be obedient and receptive to the direction of males, as males and females would be receptive to the direction of God. So all of that was very crazy making. And for me, when I was writing my dissertation on Elie Wiesel, he was very angry at God for what happened to the Jews in the Holocaust. And one night, I was up really late drinking tab and smoking cigarettes and writing my dissertation. And I laid down on my bed and I started asking God why he hadn't looked after women. I mean, we've loved him too. Why didn't he ever send us a prophet to liberate us? Why did he let men continue to rape women throughout history? Why did he allow wars that harmed women and children even more than men? And on and on and on. And I lay down on my bed, and in the quiet, I heard a voice in myself say, "In God, there's a woman like yourself. She shares your suffering, and she too has had her history stolen from her." And that was the beginning of my search for a female god. I didn't even really know the name goddess. I was aware of the Greek goddesses. I wasn't particularly interested in them. And so that was my search for the goddess. And that was going on for many other women who were studying graduate school in religion, and also women in the grassroots who were in churches or synagogues, and the questions were being raised for them in similar ways. And in the early 1970s, there seemed to be a welling up of interest in the goddess. Merlin Stone's book, When God Was a Woman, was published. And Mary Daly wrote Beyond God the Father, which really changed my life, both of those books. And so for me then, I happened to take a beyond sabbatical and took a course in a free university with a young woman named Starhawk, who was a few years younger than me at the time. No one knew who she was. And she started talking about the goddess, and all of a sudden I just went, oh, the goddess is part of nature, it's connected to nature. And I've always been interested in spirituality and nature, but I was always told that was a mistake. And there was a female divinity. She understood a meaning for it, and it wasn't under patriarchy the way Athena is the warrior goddess or Aphrodite is the sex symbol for men. And so I wrote Why Women Need the Goddess a few years after that, and it was a real struggle to write that article. I was really afraid to come out in that I had a job at Columbia University, and I knew it wouldn't be well received there. And also, on the one hand, what I was writing, although it was revolutionary, it also seemed so obvious. And I remember I was sitting together with Naomi Goldenberg in my apartment. We were both writing our speeches for the same panel. And I kept reading it to her and saying, does that make any sense? Isn't that so obvious? And she said, no, no, keep going, keep going. So I wrote that paper, Why Women Need the Goddess. And in there I argued that, using the words of Clifford Geertz, who's a sociologist of religion and anthropologist of religion, that religion is a symbol system that creates long-lasting moods and motivations in people. So that if you have a male god, you are getting a long-lasting mood that males are more like God than females. And you're getting the motivation, just like I read in theology, that men should be ruling over women and women should be obedient to their husbands, their fathers, or any other male figures in their lives. And so I said, I connected Geertz's ideas to the idea of a male divinity. And then I talked about the emergence of a female divinity, the goddess, or God she in our lives, would create other moods and motivations. And the most important one was the legitimacy and beneficence or goodness of female power. Because female power in our tradition, we know about it, but it's the wicked old witch, or it's Eve who brought sin onto mankind. It's the sex symbol who tempts men, and all of these things. There is female power, but we haven't been taught that it was good. Now, I don't mean that women never do anything wrong or were perfect or anything like that, but the idea that female power can be a positive force in the world, that was like a really strange idea for us in those days. And that it didn't have to be under the control of something male, like a god or a husband or a father. And also the symbol of the goddess, many of the ancient goddess symbols emphasize the breasts, or in others, the naked female body of the earliest goddesses. And so it's a positive image of the female body. Many of the earliest goddesses are overweight, to our opinion, and that was really positive for many women, that you don't have to be skinny or look like a model in order for your body to be affirmed as beautiful. The goddess provides an image of the goodness and beneficence of female power, a positive image of the female body, and not necessarily tied with being a mother, but simply having a female body is good. And then it affirms the female will, that we can not just wait for things to happen to us, but we can be active in the world, transforming the world for the better. And also affirming our bonds with each other as women. So images like Demeter and Persephone, where Demeter is the mother and Persephone is her daughter. And Persephone is stolen away to the underworld, and she mourns and she weeps, and she actually has a lot of power, so she stops the crops from growing till she gets her daughter back. And the idea that a mother would do that for a daughter, again, at that time I loved my mother, she loved me, but she would do what my father said. She would not necessarily have protected me in every way. She'd protect me in some ways against my father, but not in every way. Some women had mothers who were less protective of them than mine. And so the idea that a mother would put that relationship with her daughter first, and if anything happens to my daughter, I'm there, and that was very, very positive. And of course, that's a positive image also for our relationships with each other as girlfriends, as friends, as sisters, as lovers, that we can put our relationships with women first and affirm the positive value in our lives of our bonds with other women.
Perfect, 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 perfect.